We're asked all the time about things like my magnet cleaner exploded in the tank, heater cracked or exploded, plastic gear melted, seals and pumps failed. Does the plastic itself leach over time? Not directly related, but similar effect, small hands drop some coins or something else undesirable into the tank. I don't have an answer to if plastics leach anything harmful over the years. Water is the universal solvent, so it's possible on a long enough timeline, but also much more likely with low-grade gear and plastics. Both likely a moot point with any reasonable water change schedule. The rest of those major equipment failures can result in what I describe as a catastrophic pollutant, the type of thing where the tank can have hours to days from the event before it's a total crash. The best option here is preventative as well. That's biannual maintenance. Set the gear up in a manner where it can be easily removed and run in a bucket of citric acid. Power heads, heaters, and returns can often be done right at the tank with a bucket next to it, even without messing with the cords. What that does is twofold. Well cared for gear that's not caked in precipitate and coralline working into the seals and bearings is much less likely to wear, leak, or break catastrophically. Second, it's a natural inspection point. If you see something suspect, it's time to replace the gear, not try to squeak a few more months out of it. Those who prevent these types of events have 100x the types of success rates of those who try to catch it in real time and react to them. No one wants to have to buy a replacement power head, return, or heater, but we all want crashes less, and the fact is that everything that's running 24/7 submerged in corrosive seawater has a usable life. What about despite best practices, something major still likely goes wrong? Particularly if I can visually see immediate negative effects in the corals, I would change out as much of the water as I can, as close to 100% as possible. Larger changes if the problem is presenting as aggressive. One of the biggest challenges beyond the fact that a 75 gallon per day RODI might not produce water fast enough for that is heating that water can be slow, and temperature is important to match to somewhat close to the tank on bigger water changes. Search for and use Hams's effect on water changes calculator to understand the effects of what you're doing and what's left in the tank. For less aggressive instances, 35% changes is a more reasonable size for most people to produce, heat quickly, and less likely to cause a combined stress event. But also take 5 of them to effectively dilute or remove around 90% of the contaminants in the tank. Sometimes water changes are also just not an option. This is commonly true on big tanks where few reefers have hundreds of gallons on hand. In that case, if carbon and GFO is what you have on hand, it's worth trying, but they're a low probability save. Many people swear by the Polyfilter brand pads, which have a resin coating on them to absorb metals. Polyfilters are inexpensive and can probably be found at a local fish store around you when needed. However, what I'd really suggest as an emergency tool when water changes are not an option is a resin-based filter media like Pure from Brightwell Marine. This is designed for metals and catastrophic events like these. Running the Pure in a reactor forces virtually all of the tank's water through it multiple times an hour. I'd even go as far as to say having a canister of Pure around with the "in the event of emergency break glass" label, because when you need it now. Alternatively, ask your favorite local fish store to stock it. At least it's there when you need it. Now that we've made the case and you've heard it, do you all agree with our counsel that the solution for pollution in 80% of tanks is select a clean additive system that addresses these issues? Clean your pumps and gear biannually, do your 35% monthly, 10% weekly, or 1.5% daily water changes, run either carbon or ozone or a resin like Pure in the event of emergency. If not, what do you recommend to other reefers or use yourself? Next episode of 52 SE, we start a deep dive into each segment of filtration, starting with an entire episode on protein skimming. Everything that we've learned in the last decade, nearly all of us have one or have had a skimmer, but it's one of the most poorly understood filters on the tank. Let's change that. This release and the entire 52 SE guide to reefing right here.